Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.
It's time for another conversation. Welcome to Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. And we're in a space that I must tell you about. It's called the Meet Studio right here in Mandeville, Jamaica. It's a perfect space to meet for your next project. And with me in this space is a good friend of mine, Ruth Carr, vlogger, communication specialist. How are you, Ruth Ann?
I'm doing so well today. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm good. And we're going to be talking about something that I have been through and Ruth Ann is currently going through it. How to successfully navigate that parent-child role shifting when it is that you're now the parent and the parent is now the child. And I had my taste of that. How is that going for you, Ruth Ann?
Listen, it's very interesting. I always thought of myself as this perfect mother material. I was ready, always been good with kids, had this down pat. I just needed to have a few kids and that's it. Perfect kids. And then God said, are you sure? Let me give you a dry run. How about parenting your mom and your dad for a little bit? And I'm telling you, there are good days and there are days where I just want to pull my hair out. I'm like, what is this? God, I don't know what is
We're gonna be deliberate and we're gonna start out with the bad days first and then we will end with the good. Tell us a little bit about the bad. What has been the most difficult for you so far?
For me, I wonder if in Jamaican patois, we normally say hard years. I wonder, was I that child? Because sometimes my parents don't listen. I'll start with my dad. Last year, into this year, he had a terrible heart attack, and he was unwell. So I went overseas to help to take care of him. I was in for the shock of my life, The things that were good for him. You can't eat this. This is what I'm preparing for you. This is what you can have. You can't lift that. You'd think that because it's a life and death situation that my dad would listen. He didn't. He wanted to do what he needed to do. And sometimes, I rarely shout when I'm upset. But sometimes the decibel went up a little bit. I'm like, you're going to listen. This is what you're going to do.
How did that work out? And let me tell you why I can speak also from a space of understanding. My mom died recently, but before she died, I was, the main person making sure she was okay. And as somebody who is diabetic, there were some days when you would have to insist that she needs to eat certain things. And after we're like, something, you don't want food or the diet to become just something burdensome. So how is it your father just said, okay, then let me just allow Ruth Ann to make that decision? Or is it that you just did it regardless of how he reacted?
Luckily for me, I wasn't alone. There was my stepmom and other siblings. Okay. But I think once I showed up, people were happy to just cast that burden on to me. Like, oh yeah, you're here now, it's your turn. We've had to parenting for a while, so it's now your turn.
So did you have a difficult conversation, so to speak, or is it just over time he just realized
I think I had to learn how to communicate with my father. Okay. I had to figure out how to get him to respond the way I wanted to. Because he's very headstrong. So just telling him, do this, do that, does not work. Even if he's the one wrong and he knows it. So it's a situation of just sitting down, even when he's killing me. Like I just want to fight him. I don't believe in violence, guys. It's not the answer. Doesn't mean you don't feel like it sometimes.
Right.
It's a situation where I had to sit down and I'm like, P, you have to realize that we're saying all these things, we're doing all these things because we love you. And we want to make sure that you're okay and you can live long enough to see us achieve certain things. You can see us do certain things. And then he started understanding and I just had a whole conversation about it.
what was the emotional, what should I say, piece to that? So it's all well, you know that this needs to happen, but for you, what did that do to you emotionally?
I did not grow up with my father.
Okay.
And we
Okay.
had a very rocky start to our relationship. And so he re-entered my life when I was 16, finishing up high school. And the relationship has grown partly because of mommy, because mommy was always like, don't hate your father even if he's not there, if he doesn't
Right,
show up.
right.
He's your dad after all.
Right.
And so even during that time there, because it's the longest time I've ever spent in his presence, like we've lived together for that amount of time. And even that had a little learning curve. And there were different times and different emotions that came about. But sitting there and talking to him, it kind of made me wish that I had him there when I was younger too, to sit and have these conversations.
Okay.
Because we're
Okay.
so alike. So different, but so
Alike.
alike. And because we're so alike in some headstrong way, that's the hard part. That's the difficult part.
Okay.
Because he's doing things and he wants to have the last word, and by God, I will, sir. So it becomes difficult, but just having the conversation and taking emotions away some of the times is what helps.
I think for me though, there was a point where there were no caregivers around, and I actually had to, give my mom a bath. That was one of the most difficult things for me ever. And I realized that as strong as I am, it took a toll on me emotionally. And I told myself, I will never do that again, because I knew that I just could not manage. So because of that, I ensured that there were always other persons to do that. Now, that to me was probably the most difficult for me. Any other aspects that for you has been, somewhat hard? What else has been hard for you before we get to the good?
I'm gonna go to my mom, but quickly wrap with my dad.
Okay.
Because for a while he wasn't able to walk very well by himself, and even to motivate him and remind him that sometimes it's in your head. It was so hard because you remember being a child yourself and not knowing how to walk, and somebody was there teaching you. And now here I am with my father, and most times we'd be home alone trying to encourage him to get up even though it's painful to walk, and just to celebrate the wins, like when he finally went up the stairs, and it was just, listen, I just felt so proud, like, you've done this, you've accomplished this, look at you, P. And the first time he walked around a little without his walker, and I realized that, like myself, he works well when, it's positive reinforcement, like, you got this, look at you, I'm so proud of you, instead of, oh my God, you're not doing your best. So that works for him. And, my mom, on the other hand, no, I didn't even realize that my mom was so stubborn.
Okay.
I'm the only child for my mom. My father has other kids. And I moved away from home when I was 19. So we have not lived in the same space for a long period of time. But then my mom, she was the one who took care of my grandaunt who lived there with her. Earlier this year, she passed. So I went to take care and stay with my mom. And there were several times when we butt head. One of the things I've always loved about my mom, though, is that even when I was a child, she didn't have a problem apologizing to me if she was wrong. And so that's good. And we try not to talk too much when we're upset. But we've had some rough moments when she just was so close to a situation that was hurting her, she could not hear me. And I'm saying, Mom, when you do these things, they don't just affect you.
It will then
I'm here, you pay a check, and it's not a complaint. I find it a pleasure. It's an honor to know that I can take care of my mom. But you have to bear that in mind, that when you are doing too much and physically you're not doing well, emotionally you're not doing well, that affects me. And then when I try to share that with her, and sometimes I just get upset, like I don't raise my voice when I'm upset, but you will know that, listen, the silence, the words that I'll say, and she's like, I'm being inhumane, I'm being and I'm like, Mommy, listen to me. We've had this conversation several times, and you're not listening, like, step away from it. To the point, I know I'm talking a lot. I'm
No, man, that's fine.
to the
That's
point,
fine.
there was this one particular thing that she was doing, and I'm like, Mom, this is the solution to it. She wasn't listening because Mom wanted to do what Mom wanted to do, even though it wasn't helping anyone. The situation shifted, and so I had to give her a tough love. I'm like, these are the consequences, and I'm not going to help. You chose this. I was giving you a way out. You chose this. You've been stubborn, so you're going to deal with it. And she complained, I'm not help her, and I'm not hurt her and stuff, and I'm like, that was your choice. And it's hard to look at somebody you love hurting, but you have to say this is your choice until they can realize that, hey, I have to make these better decisions. Don't just make bad decisions and expect me to pick up whatever rubble you're left in.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.
You can't live your best life without a healthy immune system. Boost your immune system the delicious way with Zappy's organic juices and punches. Made from local produce with zero added sugar, our juices cleanse and revitalize your body as they boost your natural immunity. Try our delicious flavors. Beat It, Berry Bomb, Get Fresh, Ton Up, and Island Splash. Find us on Instagram at Zappy's Organics or call or send a WhatsApp message at 1-876-779-8910 to order today. That's 1-876-779-8910. Zappy's Organic Juices and Punches. Live your best life today.
For all your events such as educational forums, workshops, book launches, weddings, and more, contact Noreen Daly, the ultimate MC and event host. Visit noreendaily.com or follow her on Instagram at Noreen Daily Jam. Noreen Daily, creating long-lasting memories.
Does your business lack branding? Having difficulty realizing your vision? Look no further. Splinth Brand Design Consultancy specializes in developing personal and business brands. Services include strategic management, website creation, social media branding, and more. Visit them online at www.wearesplint.com. Splinth, the brand you need to succeed.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.
Somebody's going to listen and watch this and saying it's obvious though, because you started out saying that you had a rocky relationship with your father, but it evolved into something else, transitioned into something else, and you and your mom have always had a decent relationship. So now with that shifting, it's probably not that hard to navigate. So for somebody who's saying, I continue to have, or I've always had a rocky relationship with either parent, what would you then say to them in terms of when that shift comes? Because at some point that shift happens, whether by choice or by circumstance, whether it is that they get sick or something. What would be your advice to somebody who's saying, I'm probably not quite where you are yet, ladies, in terms of that connection with either parent? What would you say to that?
Take your time. Listen, where's the camera? I need to look for it. Take your time. This is a marathon, not a sprint. There are days you're going to wake up and you're like, do I even care about these people? Mm-hmm. You do, but you're just frustrated. But give yourself that time, you know? Give yourself that time. Be okay with that. Because even with my father, about the rocky relationship, I remember when he came back into my life and I was allowing him to be in my life. But it was from the standpoint where you should just show up. You should do things for me. You should just do whatever. And so I wasn't giving in the relationship. So we expect a lot of things from our parents now that we are, you know, the roles have shifted. But we need to step aside and realize that, hey, we're having an impact. The road has shifted. If you were to go back in time and be that child, would you want your mother, your father to parent you that way? And if not, and trust me, that's something I have to grapple with because I didn't even realize that I was so impatient.
Yes.
So like,
which is a nice transition into one of the things that I wanted to make sure we highlight is the whole idea that with that shifting, you have to be patient. Yeah. You have to be patient. I remember when I realized my mom is one of the she is the person who I think that's why I love traveling so much. And I remember back in the day when we'd go in the mall, we can't keep up with Mummy Ruth Ann. And I remember it got to the point now when she was starting to show her age and she was walking, slower, even like we're here and at home. And it took me a while to make that transition. So that's one of the things that we really have to really step back and exercise some level of patience. So as we transition now to some of the good days, what then would you say are some of the good days for you with this shifting of the roles now that has happened?
I've always loved the fact that I don't have any dependents. It sounds weird and terrible.
It's fine.
I'm being honest.
It's fine.
But there are days when just knowing that someone eating, someone's happiness, someone moving from this point to the next depends on me. It forces me to even be a better version of Ruth. And that's why I'm saying it's preparing me for my actual kids, No, honestly, because sometimes when I look at mommy and her needs, which I have to plug here, that my mom, one of my biggest dreams for her, and she's wanted it as well, because one of the things I've realized that I had to do was to step back and not just project my dreams and hopes on my parents.
Nice.
Like, I want them to do this, I want them to behave this way, but they're who they are. And they're not doing those things, and I'm stressed out over it, and they're not going to change. Crazy.
Yes.
But she's always wanted to go to school. She had one when she was very young, at 16. And so she's starting pre-university. Well, she has started at NCU. And even that is a challenge. Because sometimes I hear little negative self-talks, and it just upset me, And I'm like, you can't talk to yourself like that. And she's like, no, but you know these things. And I'm like, Mommy, everybody starts out not knowing. You've got this. Because I know that my mom is one of the brightest and smartest persons. I know. But she has to believe that. And sometimes it gets frustrating trying to get her to see the version of herself or see the true essence of who she is from my perspective.
I think for me, that I'm going to share one good thing for me. With old people, they are stuck and they're going to eat what they want to eat. And if you try to introduce new things, it's a challenge. I remember over a period just to say to Mommy, try something new now. You go to the States and she want to eat the same food. I'm like, try something new. I remember when she was getting, in her last couple of years, I remember now and again Mommy would ask for pizza. And I'm going, pizza? You? And that to me was one of the biggest things for me to just go and get the pizza. Or take her out for her to get it. So some of these simple pleasures of life. Yeah. Simple pleasures of life. And that is why, for me, now that she is no longer here, I don't live with regrets because I knew that I tried to give her the best of what she could in her declining years. As we're wrapping up, Ruth, and we've both said a lot, but if somebody is somewhat still just saying, boy, ladies, y'all, all of that sounds good. Really sounds good, but I just don't know if what you said has really, resonated with me. What would be the one thing that you don't say, I've said a lot, but this, if you get nothing else, this is what I want you to get.
The one thing I'd say that you definitely should take from this is you're not perfect, your parents aren't perfect. There's this song that I learned on Instagram. The older I get, the more that I see. My parents aren't heroes. They're just like me. It just hasn't hit me yet. So that's what we need to take from it. Your parents aren't perfect. You aren't perfect. Take time with yourself. Take time with your parents. And ensure that you're patient and give them space to grow and be themselves the same way you needed space when you were a child.
I am not about to add anything else. Thank you, Ruth Ann, for this conversation. This was Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life.